Hi, it's Carrie Kenner, and welcome to my weekly vlog. I want to talk this week about mission statements. And if you've ever worked in a business, you've probably been involved or heard about the mission statement. And usually, mission statements are incredibly boring, confusing, and pretty much meaningless. If a mission statement doesn't guide the actions of the people within the business, it's not done right. So, I want to tell you about both mission statements that I've used in my business, as well as a framework for developing a mission statement that might work for you. And what's really cool also about mission statements is that they don't have to be just for businesses. They could be for your personal self, they could be for your family, and they can also be for business. So, let me tell you the mission statement for my prior company, Big Belly Services. I love this mission statement. I used it for over 10 years and it really drove my actions. And I'm going to tell you how that happened. Now, I'm going to read the mission statement so that I really get it right because we do take a lot of time to craft that statement. And I want to make sure that I don't flub it up. And I'm also going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to start with the vision statement, which the way I think about the vision statement is that if it was a perfect world, here's the vision that would happen because of your work. And it's nice to have a vision statement because it does give us that overarching, big, beautiful picture of what we're working towards, but we may probably not see. Okay, so here goes. The vision of Big Belly Services is to create a more peaceful world by promoting healthy births, honoring the sacred earth that we all inhabit, illuminating the intersections of health with racial and social justice, and modeling sustainable food production. Pretty big and lofty, huh? But I think I did a really good job, at least moving the needle a little bit towards that version of the world. The mission of Big Belly Services is to change the culture of birth by serving birthing families and professionals with birth education and support that focuses on social and racial justice. We do this with services and curricula that are heart-centered, soulful, and abundance focused. Okay, now I'm going to dissect that a little bit because doing the three things that I'm going to talk about are important in this framework. First, it says what you want to accomplish. I want to change the culture of birth. Then it talks about how we do that by serving birthing families and professionals with birth education and support. And then this third piece is the value piece, support that focuses on social and racial justice. And we do it in a way that is heart-centered, soulful, and abundance-focused. Okay, I didn't start out by just writing that up. I started by using this framework to come up with those three components that I then put together into a statement. And the thing is if you thought about working for Big Belly Services or you thought about using Big Belly Services, you could read that mission statement and get a pretty good idea of either what you're working towards if you were an employee and what values or characteristics would be a good fit or not. And if you were thinking of getting services from Big Belly Services, you'd know where your money is going and you'd know what you're going to get and probably what it might feel like in the process. That's what a good mission statement does. So let's take a look at those three components that we're going to use to build the mission statement. The first one is that it's going to foreshadow the outcome. Now, that's a fancy way of saying it's going to say what we want it to look like, what we want this business to do, why we're doing it, what's the impact going to be. So for Big Belly Services, it was going to change the culture of birth. Okay, so that was the foreshadowing, the future telling of what was going to happen if Big Belly Services was successful in what its mission was. The second thing are what are the key characteristics of it's usually the people or the way that the work is done. It's the how. So for Big Belly Services, the key characteristics is that it was going to focus on racial and social justice, that it was heart-centered, soulful, and abundance-focused. These are values of how things are done within the company. And it kind of, you can use that as a criteria check in a way. If something that you're thinking of doing, providing, creating within your company doesn't meet any of those key characteristics, you probably shouldn't do it, because it might be distracting your energy away from your real values. It might be kind of like starting to derail the work that your company is doing. Basically, it's just not in alignment. So you want to stay focused on the key characteristics of both your services and your workers. It's a great way to use if like people are feeling like they don't fit, they're not belonging, they're not sure if they're contributing. Kind of going back to those key characteristics, which are actually things that you can put into a job description, can be helpful. Now, the third part of your mission statement are the critical actions. These are the things that you do in your company. For Big Belly Services, it was to provide professionals and families with support and education around birth. Now, the thing that your critical actions can do is they can describe what life is like in the day of your business. These are things you're doing that are repeatable and that they give a sense of what the operations are like, what's happening, what are the kinds of products and services that a company provides. So again, the three critical components of your mission statement is foreshadowing the outcome. Why are you doing this? What are you trying to create? The key characteristics, how you do the work, what the values are that are reflected in the work you do, and the critical actions, the actual things that are done that look like your business in the daily life and that are repeatable actions. Okay, so that's what a good mission statement is. What a mission statement isn't is goals. So what I hope you noticed is that none of the things that were in that mission statement could actually drive my actual performance in a given period of time. The mission statement does not include anything that is measurable, that is time bound, that is specific. Okay, so if you've heard of the SMART goals, SMART, SMART is an acronym that stands for specific, measurable, achievable. Now, the goals my mission statement was achievable, relevant. My mission statement is relevant, but your goals need to be relevant to the mission statement, and time bound. So, what people often do is put into their mission statement things that are too specific. That's how they get too confusing, too long, and they start to become meaningless, because a mission statement should provide this overall view, this view into the future. It's overarching. If it's starting to dictate what people are doing on a daily basis, then it gets confusing because it won't apply to all the people that might work in your company. So let me tell you about how that mission statement worked for me when I had Big Belly Services. So again, the mission statement started out by saying that I wanted to serve professionals and families. Okay, so I wasn't just working with childbearing families, I was also training doulas. I was trying to create like an army of doulas, if you will, who were going to go out and serve the world, serve birthing families in a way that was informed by racial and social justice. So I had those things built into my curriculum. There wasn't a single course that I provided that didn't have racial and social justice in my mind when I was creating it, and in some of the information that was being shared with students. So they were indoctrinated, if you will, with that kind of information that informed how they would do their work in the world as well. Remember, I was trying to change shit. I wanted to create a new culture, a new way of doing birth, and other things. The other thing is that the values I held is that our work would be heart-centered. It would, and that means it comes from the heart. It's mindful, it's considerate, it's thoughtful, it's compassionate. And that it would be soulful, that it would have authenticity to it, that it would be something that resonated in our guts, in our bellies, that it was something that felt like a personal mission, like what we came to Earth to do. And then it was also abundance focused, that it wasn't based on scarcity. There wasn't competition. There wasn't, oh, I can't tell this doula that thing because she might get my clients. It was that, the rising tide lifts all boats. We were there to help each other. We were there to build as many doulas as possible. That's something that I still want to do. I'm still always working towards as many doulas as possible to serve as many families as possible so that we can change, if not the entire culture of birth, at least the births for every one of those families, that they have a better experience they would have had without a doula being there. Okay, so that drove my curricula, that drove how I showed up, that drove how I opened a class with something that was mindful, something that was acknowledging the land we were on and the people that were sitting in circle with us. Um, that just so many things, so many ways that infused into my courses. The other thing is that it was part of that bigger vision of Big Belly Services that also had to do with food sustainability and honoring the earth. My business expanded. It wasn't all Big Belly Services. I should maybe say the work in my life expanded so that not only was I doing birth doula trainings, I also created an urban farm, and I made a greenhouse. I built it with my own two hands. And in that greenhouse, I started seeds. I saved seeds from my garden. I started seeds in little pots. I would sell seedlings and I would give seedlings away. I would do free community education to anybody in my neighborhood, anybody that walked by and saw this greenhouse and all this amazing stuff growing in my front yard. They didn't even know it was behind in the backyard where I had the chickens and like 7 different raised beds growing tons of vegetables. I had fruit trees, I had herbs, medicinal herbs, um, culinary herbs, all sorts of plants that attracted bees and pollinators. It was amazing. It was so incredibly amazing. And I inspired people with that. There's people in my neighborhood who would come every spring. What are you going to grow? What are you going to have? When are your seedlings going to be ready? And they would come back years later and say, we're still harvesting kale from that little plant we got from you. The chicken that you gave us, not laying eggs anymore, but she's still strutting around and getting all the insects in the garden. It was the most wonderful feeling that I was making a difference, that I was making in my little corner of the world, I was helping the impact of raising awareness around what people ate, what they could grow, how they could feed their own families, and creating that sustainability that was so important and still is so important to me. The motto that I came up was growing families, growing food, growing futures. So I was growing families with my doula work. I was growing food with my urban farm, and I was growing futures with the people that I was training to be birth professionals, and also through retreats that I was offering that would help people get more connected to themselves, more connected to the land, more connected to the seasons, more connected to each other. And it was a it was a great experience to have created this vision that guided me. It guided me into the future. It helped me to figure out, should I do this thing or not? Does it fit or not? And the beautiful thing is that this is a document that I created. Mission statements are documents that people create. They can revise it. They can create a new one. They can throw the damn thing away and start again. We can reinvent ourselves. We can reinvent our businesses. So my invitation to you is to play around with writing a mission statement. Maybe you want to start with writing one for yourself, your mission in life, maybe just for the next 10 years. Or maybe you want to write a mission statement for your family. I love that idea. It's just like, what are we as a family trying to do with our lives in our neighborhoods, um, changing, intergenerational legacies? There's so much that can be done with a family mission statement. Or maybe you're starting a business, or maybe you're in a business, but it's not really moving you very much anymore. Um, then you could revamp it, start again. So I invite you to try these 3 parts of a mission statement framework and see what you come up with. And I would love to hear from you how maybe you've got a great mission statement and tell me, how is it working for you? Or if you have some different ideas about mission statements, let me know. Thank you so much for thinking about how we can make purpose and meaning of our lives and how we can set a compass point that helps move us in that direction, gives us a guiding light to follow so that we can make an impact in the world with our lives that we're going to be really proud of. Thank you so much for being with me today. Bye.